No, I am Indio Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Hello, my Spudguns. It is I, Artist Blood, the Ghoul next door, and welcome to the first official edition of episode of the Ghoul next door.
I went to my mother's. She has been talking about having me make her a pot of soup for the last week. The weather's been horrible. We finally had a nice day, so I went to Mom's to make the soup for her. And I was thinking, okay, I will turn this into a couple of blog posts because I promised to be part of Food and Flex this month. I haven't done it in a while. So I had watched the movie, decided on the recipe, said, okay, soup would work. And I also thought I'd get a cooking episode out of this for the blog, or for the channel, I should say, but it didn't quite work because Mom refused to let me do anything. Other than fetch and carry, I wasn't actually allowed to do anything, so she wouldn't come on camera. I wasn't allowed to actually do anything in her kitchen, so no cooking show. It was a meat dish, so I never ate any of it. I thought that would be a good departure from my normal vegetarian stuff. Anyway, a little disappointed.
And we're starting today's show off with the movie review of The Princess Bride. Now, if you've never seen this, we have the lovely character of Wesley, the farm boy, and he has fallen in love with the girl of the family he works for, Buttercup. We have to assume he works for the family and not just her. That would be a little weird. He's too poor to marry her, so he goes off to make his fortune, and his ship gets captured by pirates. So he's just assumed to be killed on board. Heartbroken, Buttercup decides to marry the Prince Humperdinck. Even though she does not love him, she doesn't even like him. The prince has decided to marry her because she's a commoner, because he wants his subjects to fall in love with the idea of her, not necessarily her, but the idea of her, because he is secretly planning to start a war, and he wants her death to be the catalyst for this war. Now, our poor farm boy, he has survived. Nobody knows this. He originally shows up then as the dreaded pirate Roberts. He pretends to be the very man who supposedly killed him. Saves his princess, and before they can live happily ever after, the prince intercedes and captures them both. She pledges her loyalty to the prince as long as he'll let her beloved Wesley live. Of course, the prince lies, says he will. He doesn't. He puts our character Wesley into the pit of despair, where he is experimented on by a man with 6 fingers on his right hand. While that's happening, the original kidnappers, 2 of them are left alive. 1 is dead. They decide they are going to save Wesley because Indio Montoya, he's got that great line, no, I'm Indio Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die, which everybody knows and loves. He has pledged his life to revenging his father's death, but at the hand of the 6-fingered man. So when he finds out that that's who's holding Wesley, well, that's even more reason for him to help get the help to save him and stop the wedding. And of course, you know, and all of this is a storybook that is being read to a young boy in the modern age, if you want to, well, 1980s. So a young boy in the 1980s, his grandfather is reading him this fairy tale. So all this is happening as a fairy tale, and it gets intercut with every so often the kid just saying, "But wait, what do you mean that can't be right?" And of course, you have all this great action and adventure, sword fights. I love it. This movie. I am a sucker for sword fights, so of course this movie was always one of my favorites growing up. And pirates. Who doesn't love pirate stories? You know, true love winning over everything, and of course you've got some magic happening with Miracle Max, who is played by Billy Crystal, and his wife, the witch, who's played by Carol Kane. I think that they make just an absolutely perfect comedic couple. I don't know if they ever did anything else together, but if they haven't, they should have. You know, their comedy timing is absolutely bang on. So what do I think the themes are in this? Other than the obvious of like true love and believing, never giving up, having faith in those who are closest to you. This is a fairy tale, and like all good fairy tales, there's a lot of adventure. So the idea of the pirates, and the pirates don't actually do a whole lot of pirating. They're not really on the water for too long. A lot of the pirate stuff happens on land in a chase scene. So it would be the equivalent of what would be like a car scene type of thing. We have the character of Wesley chasing, and I can never remember his name, the character played by Andre the Giant, chasing him up the rope, up the cliffs, and then of course having to battle the character of Inigo Montoya. The sword fight is absolutely brilliant. That is always my favorite scene, is the sword fight. And the scene later on in the film where they're in Miracle Max's little hut, and you've got Billy Crystal's character, Miracle Max, kind of being a bit of he doesn't want to go along with them until he realizes that it will totally screw with the prince. So he's very backhanded until he realizes, oh, well, this will make the prince's life miserable, so I'm going to help you. So this movie, I love this. You got the little flip side with the who's who, which side are you really projecting to the world. I love that. So this was actually for the month of May 2017. This movie was the selection for Food and Flex Movie Group. So I will get to the recipe now in a few minutes.
We now pause for station identification.
So the food that was seen in the movie were a bag of cheesies. There's cows, chickens, pigs. There's a lot of apples. There's some bread. There's garlic. There's leeks, carrots. The character of Buttercup is actually making dough. Behind her is celery. There's a lot of water in this. There are herbs. There's some goats. The brandy is mentioned. Peanuts are mentioned. There's cheese. We see some eels. There's wine. There is a bit of chocolate. There's a scene with a sandwich, juice, and coffee. There's another scene with what looks like sliced ham. There's some pears. There's rabbit. There is a soup stew. Lemon juice is mentioned. A mutton, lettuce, tomato sandwich is mentioned. Muffin is mentioned. Potatoes, onions, wheat. There are walnuts, mangoes, pineapples, and grapes.
The ingredients are 2 large or 3 small potatoes, 1 stalk celery, 1 onion, half of a turnip, 1 cup of carrots, 1 liter of beef stock, 1 package of boneless stew beef, 1 cup of instant rice, 1 can of tomato soup, 1 can of vegetable soup, and salt to taste.
Okay, so we're going to start by chopping up the stew beef, and then I'm going to rinse it in cold water. So this scene, the scene that inspired this, is when our heroes, Inigo Montoya, is drunk, and the character whose name I can never remember, played by Andre the Giant, when he's trying to sober him up, and he's feeding him what looks like a beef soup or a beef stew. And this is just a boneless cut. If I was doing this for myself, I probably would not chop it as small. But I'm not. Okay, some of you, if you follow me on the blog Coffee and Casseroles, or if you've watched any of my other videos where I am actually cooking, you'll know that I am vegetarian. I have been vegetarian for almost 20 years. And this is so weird. This is weird for me. But I'm not cooking for myself today. I am cooking for Mom. Before I became a vegetarian, I used to make a beef soup with oxtails myself. That's not something you can get around here too often anymore.
Simmer the beef for about an hour, at which point remove any scum that might have formed. Let simmer for another half hour. Add celery and onion first, then stir in the beef broth. Let simmer for another 15 minutes before adding the rest of the ingredients. With the lid halfway on pot, let simmer for another 45 minutes so the rice can plump up.
We now pause for station identification.
Soups are actually, because they are water-based, they are connected to moon magic. could be why we always see the classic image of the Halloween witch working over a cauldron, making her quote-unquote brew. It was probably supposed to be a reference to soup. So one of the ingredients in this soup was rice, and I actually forgot to add it to the photo, but rice is actually, it's connected to the sun and the element of air. It's also connected to money, protection, fertility, and sex, which is probably why rice is so commonly known for being thrown at weddings. In some places, rice was actually used as a form of currency. As far as omens go, when cooking rice, if there is a ring that forms around the edge of the pot, it's supposed to be telling of money coming, of wealth. It's an omen of wealth. Carrots are connected to the planet Mars, the element fire, and sexual energy. Celery is connected to Mercury, the element of fire, peace, psychic awareness, weight loss, sexual energy. Onions, also connected to Mars, fire, weight loss, and protection. And just the way garlic is used to ward off spirits and vampires, so are onions. The potato is connected to the moon, to the element of earth, compassion, and protection. Tomatoes are connected to the planet Venus, the element water, love, money, protection, and health. So in the movie, we see a scene where Miracle Max and his wife are making up a pill made of chocolate, well, coated with chocolate. So chocolate is connected to the planet Mars, to the element of fire, to love, and to money. Salt is connected to both the planet Earth and the element of Earth, and are for grounding, protection, and stopping psychic awareness. There are places that used to use salt as a form of currency.
That's all I have to say for today. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Leave me a comment, show me some love, and tune in again and tune in often. Creeping Screams.